everybody. I'm in the mood to talk this morning. I'm not usually. I'm usually quite an introvert. And I've told myself, if you wake up in the mood to talk, just start rambling on your podcast. Why not? My mind is always wandering. W-A-N-D-E-R-I-N-G. Wondering. But I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. I have all these thoughts in my head. I'm just going to start rambling, and you're going to have to deal with it. I'm sorry. Anyways, I went to the gym the other night. When I lived in Cleveland, I rarely went to the gym. And part of the reason why I never went to the gym in Cleveland is because I had a national park in my backyard, which was so amazing. I would far rather go to the national park than I would to the gym. Cuyahoga Valley National Park and Brecksville Reservation, I miss both of those things. You go there during the day and there's a bunch of annoying people, but it was open until 11 p.m. So why not go after all the other people are gone? Which is what I always used to do. I'd wait till sunset. And one year for Christmas, I got a headlamp, like a flashlight that attached to my head from my brother-in-law, who gives the best presents, my sister. They both give the best presents, ones that I use for years. And I just put these headlamps on, and I'd go out after dark, and I'd see the most amazing things that wouldn't happen during the day. Usually it was baby animals, which I have learned the hard way. Do not mess with baby animals. I remember walking up on a mama deer and a baby deer one night, and for some odd reason, the baby deer just started following me. And I'll put the photo of the baby deer online on my Facebook if you want to see it. So cute. But the baby deer started following me up the hill as I walked. I stopped to look at it, and then the baby deer was like, "Hey, cool. Daddy." I think the baby deer thought I was his daddy. Dada. Apparently his real dad went out for cigarettes, never came back. Dada. This deer was insane about me and just started following me up the hill as I started hiking. I'm like, uh-oh. And the mama deer started getting pissed and ran off into the woods. I'm like, oh crap, what do I do? The mom just got so angry and the baby deer is following me. So I kind of picked up the baby deer, and this is not advice. This is bad in hindsight. I later Googled it, and I picked up the baby deer and tried to take it to the last place I heard the mama deer. And I just held it in my hands and walked up the hill. It was so, in one way, it was this amazing moment where I held a baby deer in my hands, In another way, I'm a freaking idiot. Do not do this. It's bad. It's bad to do this. But I didn't know better. So I took the baby deer and I just left it in the last place that I heard the mama deer. I just dropped it off on the side of the trail and hoped that they would find each other. But I went online later and I read that no, if that happens, just leave the baby deer where you found it, at the beginning place, because mama deers and baby deers, they have to leave each other all the time. The mom has to go out and forage for food. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, the baby deer has to be alone some of the time. The mom can't be there all the time for it. But I find nature so much more interesting than television. It's weird that zoos are for kids, right? If you ever go to the zoo, you'll find that there's half the audience is kids. Why? And birding is for old people. And while I loved birding in Ohio, birding is completely different than it is in Florida. I mean, the animals here, the birds here are prehistoric creatures. I went out into the wilderness yesterday and I forgot to bring my good camera, so I didn't get a good picture of it, but I saw a raccoon swimming next to a heron, I think, or an egret. I don't even know what it was exactly, but it's oh man, that would have been such a great photograph. And I missed it. Somebody's dog started barking and the raccoon got scared and swam back to shore. I've never seen a raccoon swimming before. But seriously, the last time I went to the zoo in Cleveland, why is that for kids? As an adult, I was completely and totally mesmerized by animals. And why aren't zoos packed with adult humans trying to get in, like a movie theater? Well, it's 2023. Movie theaters aren't that packed either. And I think that this is an unpopular sentiment, but animals teach us a lot about ourselves because we are animals. If you look at an animal and its urges, you kind of get a feel for who we are and what we crave. Modern day morals and values are odd. Like, for tens and hundreds of thousands of years, humans lived like animals. And then, I don't know, what was it, the last 500, 200 years? We started to become civilized. At least some of us. At least some of you. Maybe not me. People today who have the most modern technology, cell phones, flush toilets, heating and air conditioning. Even the people who are the most poor have technology and things in their homes that only kings would have had in past generations. And yet people cry about poverty. I'm not a particularly wealthy person, but I've always lived in decent places. One of the things that I constantly see people crying about on the internet is, how can I afford a home? But then I wonder, where do these people live? Do they live in Seattle or San Francisco, California? I mean, housing prices skyrocketed in 2020. But people were whining about it long before that. I kind of half regret not buying a home in 2019 as I was planning to. Actually, in early 2020. I was thinking about buying a home in Cleveland. And I look back and I think that thing probably would have rose in value by $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. Because that's what happened to real estate in 2020. It just got ridiculously out of control. I think a house in Cleveland, in Old Brooklyn, where I was looking, went from probably $60,000 to $90,000 or $90,000 to $110,000, even in a place where real estate was ridiculously cheap. I want to buy a house one day. Some of the things that I want. I don't really want indoor cats, but I don't really want outdoor cats. I'm going to have a room where they're allowed to get in if it's really cold out or whatever. But they can also get out and roam around the yard. I want a couple of kitties. I'm a cat person, not a dog person. Although I was out hiking today in the wildlife preserve and I came upon this lady with 3 border collies and I instantly loved them and they instantly loved me. I'm not a dog person, but border collies seem to be the exception. Like if I ever meet a woman who insists on having a dog, the compromise is, like, if you want a dog, it's going to be a border collie, maybe a yellow lab. But I love kitties. There's no compromise there. Some of them are dicks. A lot of them are dicks. Actually, most of them are dicks. But I'm kind of like a cat. I think there's 2 kind of people on earth. Cat people and dog people. Dog people are like, love me, love me, love me. Like if you see a dog, they just want love unconditionally. And if you see a cat, they're like, earn my love. I'm the kind of person who needs my love earned. I'm an introvert. I think dogs are extroverts and cats are introverts. I'm not going to love you just because you exist. I don't like most people. The other day I saw a question being asked online. What's something that's easy to do, but not enough people are doing it? And one person spoke up and said, kindness. Just be kind to people. I disagree. I think there are way too many kind people out there. Unconditional kindness is enabling of bad behavior. I always hated going to downtown Cleveland because there were so many crazy people on the streets, hanging out in the public square. People who just, give me money, Can I get some money? No, I'm an introvert. Get away from me. Don't stop asking me for things. People who wish to be kind feel this euphoric rush to feel like they're good when they give money to poor people, to homeless people. But really what they're doing is they're ruining society by enabling crappy people to approach somebody on the street, like at what point in life have you ever approached a stranger and wanted something? The other day I was sitting in my vehicle eating a sandwich that I had packed for lunch, and some guy like knocked on my window. He's like, "Hey man, do you have another sandwich?" I'm like, "No, this is the only sandwich that I packed for lunch, you know?" I mean, at least he was asking for food instead of like money. I'd much rather give food than money. When I lived in Pittsburgh, I'd walk downtown every day from where I lived. And there would be homeless people there every day, and they would ask for money every day. And then one of them had tricks every day. They'd show up one day with like one lady had kitties. She would take coat hangers, like the old school ones with metal. And one day she shaped the coat hangers around their necks like leashes. And she had like 5 little kittens with coat hanger leashes around their necks. And then the very next day she had a cast that you could obviously see was cracked down the middle. Like it wasn't her actual cast. And it was so easy to see. Like she was trying all these tricks to get people's empathy, to play on people's emotions, even like no matter how obvious it was that she was doing it, like still some people still gave. I do not understand how people are manipulated. I am not a person who is prone to manipulation. I'm not prone to scams. I think it's bizarre that anybody is. My friend's mom pretty much basically gave her life savings away to a Nigerian prince after her husband died. And then they had to call the police, and the police couldn't do anything about it. And yet the second time around, like when the Nigerian prince came around and was like, "I still need your money," the woman still gave the money away. Like the rest of her life savings, tens of thousands of dollars that she had. After she got scammed once and realized that she got scammed, she gave her money away a second time. That's how easily manipulated some people are. What happens when you get old that you become a victim to manipulation? I tend to side on conspiracy theories, so I don't understand how I could ever be manipulated as an old person. If I ever do, I really lost my marbles. Conspiracy theories are odd, you know? I saw a conspiracy theory once where somebody was talking about how Chinese ships are traveling into the Great Lakes and stealing water and taking them back home. and the levels of the Great Lakes are being depleted. That's probably the most hilarious conspiracy theory that I've ever heard. What's your favorite one? Please write into the show. Nobody's going to do this because nobody listens. But please write into the show. I'd love to hear what your favorite conspiracy theory is that's probably the most ridiculous. It doesn't matter. Just tell me what your conspiracy theory is, even if it's a good one. But I think in 2020, we found out that a lot of conspiracy theories were quite believable. But back to kitty cats, right? Because I get easily distracted. The other day, I went out to the nature preserve and I saw some armadillos, which has nothing to do with kitty cats, but they kind of act like kitties. They're weird in their own way, just like cats are. And so I went back home and I Googled cats and armadillos to see how they would interact, because they're both weird in their own way, but they're similar in other ways. And they interacted exactly like I thought they would. They're both weird and they're both similar but different. Both very interested in one another, but also skeptical. Kind of like me. I'm a cat person. I think some people are cat people and some people are dog people. And I don't really like dumb dogs, you know? Sometimes I go to houses and there'll be these like little yappy dogs. Or I'll call somebody on the phone. Hello? I can't understand you. Well, shut your freaking dogs up. How can anybody stand to live in a house where there's constant barking? I used to live in this place, and my roommate at the time had a border collie, Ellie. She was such a beautiful girl. So well behaved. It was so fascinating. I'd hold food up to her nose, and she wouldn't eat until you said, "Okay, eat." And then she'd eat. She was so well behaved. And not all border collies are that well behaved, but she was. She probably set a ridiculous high bar for any other border collies that I might ever meet. But still, at the end of the day, the worst border collie is better than most. Than some yappy dog that goes, meow, 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 meow. I just want to die inside when I hear it myself. Meow, 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 meow. I can't hear you because my dogs. Well, shut your freaking dogs up. Put them in another room. Meow, meow, meow. I can't hear you. Shut your dogs up. Meow, 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 meow. I can't hear you. Why? Why do you do it? Why do you do it, people? All right. You've been listening to The Great Big Intergalactic. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for listening to the show. The Great Big Intergalactic can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Apple iTunes, and anywhere else that podcasts can be heard. If social media is your thing, you can follow the program on Facebook or Twitter. If you enjoy the show, upvote, share, like, and subscribe. Whenever and wherever those things can be done. If you'd like to send feedback, the easiest way to do that is to email the show at tgbiuniverse@gmail.com. TGBI as in the Great Big Intergalactic. Or you can leave a voicemail at 216-200-7940. Contributions could include written feedback, audio submissions, voicemails, or potentially even live guests. It was great having you today, and see you next time.